We have so many things to show you today, so many animals. Oh my goodness. Well, we have lots of insects. We have lots of well, just lots and lots of animals to be honest. So many things all around me. Would you like me to get started now, or shall we hold off a little bit?
Yeah, why don't we go from small to big? So why don't we start with the little insects, and then we can kind of explain their importance in biodiversity, and we can maybe work our way to some bigger animals.
Yep, sure. So we have today, who shall we start with? Well, will it give away my presentation if I show my animals?
Oh, I hope not. I mean, you're here fully loaded, ready to go. We're excited.
I am. So we have all the invertebrates that I've bought that I have brought along with me. In my Zoom room today, I have a Flinders Ranger scorpion,
Awesome.
a giant tiger centipede.
Yeah.
That one's she's a beauty. I have to look around because I forget who I have. I also have a beautiful banded huntsman. She's a beautiful spider. I absolutely adore her. So they're the littles that I have today.
Yep.
Sorry?
Yeah, no, please continue.
Then we have our beautiful green tree frog. We have a bearded dragon, a kookaburra, a tawny frogmouth, and a grey-headed flying fox, because today I'm showing you my predator, prey, and pollination animals. So that all works together. So you've got our predators, animals that eat other animals, our prey, the things that are getting eaten, and our pollinator, which is my absolute favorite Australian animal. And I think you'll be able to tell by my passion when I speak about him. I do love all the other animals, but this one just has a little special part in my heart. Beautiful grey-headed flying foxes.
Wonderful. Well, yeah, please, if you'd like to show anything, or we can maybe explain to those who don't quite understand why pollinators specifically are important, like flying foxes and their place in regards to, creating seed diversity and dispersing seeds, and for some of the others, rustling up next to flowers and doing all of their magic. So maybe you could just share why we need pollinators in our landscapes.
Well, I love that you said that they disperse seeds, they spread seeds around, because not many people actually know that. They're really surprised when we tell them that, well, bats, they are seed spreaders. So they eat fruit, or I have a fruit bat, he likes to eat fruit. They'll spit the seeds out and while they're flying around, and they fly over really large distances. So bats, or fruit bats, they can fly over 100 kilometers of a night time. So while they're flying, they're spreading seeds, they are pollinating, and we really need pollinators like our butterflies, our bees. Bees are probably the most well-known, I guess. Our bats, and lots and lots of other insects they pollinate too, and other animals as well. But they are really important, because we wouldn't have all of the beautiful trees and the flowers, any of the plants that we have, if we didn't have our pollinators. So they're the really important animals that spread pollen around. So pollen's that yellow stuff. If you ever pick up a flower and sometimes you get pollen all over your hands, that's the stuff that when they cross-pollinate, it helps all of the beautiful plants. So very important animals that we need. And also the pollen, also we need our pollinators for our fruits and veggies as well. So I remember my nana getting out there with her, she was being a pollinator with her paintbrush, with the pumpkins, and she was going around and going from flower to flower with her paintbrush, pollinating the flowers. So we would have pumpkins growing because there's a male and a female flower. So she was pollinating. So that's a beautiful memory I have of my nana doing that in our garden with her pollinating paintbrush.
Yeah, we do the same thing with the oxypetalin family and the dragon fruit, because if the dragon fruit flowers and there's no, like you said, to do the male and female, you just don't get any dragon fruit, and the flower slumps, and you haven't had that magic come together. Well, I know you've probably got a set tempo and whatnot for your show, and I think we've got until 5:30. So whatever you'd like to do. I mean, do you want for me to stay on and you just crank through it, or what would you like to make you comfortable and flow with what's
I honestly don't mind at all if you're happy to stay on. But we've got I can see the chat up there, so I can see any messages that people will pop up, which is fantastic. But I think it's kind of, yeah, we might just go for it.
Perfect.
Fantastic. Well, I should introduce myself. Karah, hello. I'm from Animals of Oz. And like I said, it's our predator, prey, and pollination program. Now, I don't know if you can hear, but I have some very noisy and excited animals all around me. But also, it's dinner time. So they're probably busting to get out and have some dinner. I have been sneaking them some snacks. So hopefully he'll behave. He's the very last animal too. So hopefully he'll behave until the very, very end. Now, predator, prey, and pollination. Well, really, that's the web of life, isn't it? The web of life, all things. Now, as a little girl, I've always loved animals, whether it's bees, butterflies, bearded dragons, bandicoots. So I'm in the right job, aren't I? Getting to work with lots of awesome Australian animals. Now, lots of people think that biodiversity is a very big word. They think that it's just koalas and kangaroos and emus, but it is so much more. Lots of people forget about our beautiful insects. They are really important too. Now, biodiversity, very big word. It really just means all things that are alive, that are living together and interacting together. So, on that note, let me get my first animal out and we can see, hopefully, he will do as I've planned and he will interact with some of our other animals. I'll pop you around this way. Here you go. This is Prickles and he is our bearded dragon. Prickles, the bearded dragon. And I do have some food for him. Let's see if he'll eat it. He's had a big day today, so we'll see. Prickles, would you like one of these grubs? Oh, I can see he's looking at it. Well, he's not sure. What he's supposed to do is eat the grub. So here is our wiggly, wiggly grub. Now, working with animals, they don't always do what you want them to or what you have planned. So let's just pretend Prickles has eaten the grub. That's an interaction. They're interacting together by Prickles eating the grub. Are you full from today? He had another presentation on today. So I think he's just gobbled too many grubs and he's not hungry anymore. Prickles. Oh, how disappointing. All right, you. Oh, would you like this one? What if I put it down over here? Oh, he's looking at it. He's looking at it with his eye. Keep watching. No. Oh, Prickles. Don't work with animals and kids, they said. Come on, you. All right. Now, if you're not going to eat that, I have lots more animals that will eat this grub. So, Prickles, time for you to go back. I'll show you to the camera. There's our audience. You can see my beautiful bearded dragon. There he is.
And where's Prickles from originally in Australia?
So these guys are found in the warmer parts of Australia. Don't you go anywhere, Prickles, Central Australia. Yeah. So if you ever go travelling around there, you might see these beautiful lizards running around. You're not interested today, Prickles, are you? No. All right, come on.
Starting a union. Those have started a union.
He has, yes. Well, in you go, Prickles. He's nice and warm. I've got he's jumping out of the box, you cheeky little thing. I do have a hot water bottle in there. He's a reptile, so needs to be warm to eat. So I've warmed him up, but he must be full from this morning's presentation. So like I said, I have lots more animals that will eat this wiggly, wiggly grub. So let's get that next animal out. You ready? Up you come. Good boy. Here he is. This is Cookie. Cookie, the beautiful laughing kookaburra. Oh, he knows. Look, not yet. You have to wait, Cookie. Now, I was showing you our grub. Now, this is a mealworm. You can see it's a very wiggly mealworm, but they really shouldn't call it a worm because it has lots of little legs. So I like calling this a grub. And this is a bit like a caterpillar, how a caterpillar will turn into a beautiful butterfly. This will turn into a black beetle. And Cookie, no, you eat the one in your mouth, thank you. Cookie loves to eat these grubs. You saw, as soon as I took it out of the container, Cookie snapped it out of my hands. You going to eat that one? It's going to take his time with this one as well. So there we go. Another part of our biodiversity, our web of life, even our food web. So Cookie is eating the grub. Our bearded dragon was supposed to eat the grub, but did you know that kookaburras can actually eat lizards. So we're starting to form a bit of a food web, a food chain. And Cookie, would you like to gobble that one up? Go on. I love hearing kookaburras laugh. It is my absolute favorite thing in the morning when I hear all the cookies going off. Can you see how he's using his beak and squishing the grub? Usually when they catch an animal, they'll use that beautiful beak of theirs and make their food long and skinny because they don't have hands to cut their food up or to squish it. So they'll use that really strong beak. Cookster, are you going to eat that one? Or are you going to be a bit cheeky? I think I've got another cheeky animal on my hands. Up you come. Because we're going to show everybody. Here you go. You can take that with you. Here you go. Our food web. In you get. Good boy. So I have my whiteboard here and we are going to make our food web. So right in the middle, we are going to put our grub. So our mealworm. Next, we're going to put on our bearded dragon. So our bearded dragon ate the grub. So we can draw a line from there. We also met Cookie. Cookie can go down there and Cookie ate the grub. But Cookie could also eat our bearded dragon. So it's a bit of a triangle there. The more animals we're going to add to this, the more lines, and it might get a little bit confusing or look a bit like a spider web, lots of lines joining everywhere, but this is our food web or our web of life. Pop that one down there. We'll move on to our next animal, and she is a beautiful, beautiful animal. Lots of people say they hate this animal, but I think maybe they're just a little bit frightened, they're a little bit unsure. But here we go, up you come. Now she's quite a beautiful old animal. Here we go. Got a bit of dirt on my hands. This is Hannah, and she is my beautiful huntsman. She's a banded huntsman, and Hannah, she is quite old, my poor girl. And something a little bit different about Hannah, you might notice she's missing a leg. So spiders usually have 8 legs, but Hannah here, she only has 7. So 4 on this side, 3 on this side. And that Hannah's missing a leg because someone was so scared of her, they went to stomp on her and they caught one of those legs. So unfortunately, she is quite an old spider and she's not going to grow that leg back. When they're young spiders, they can grow their legs back. So they shed, like a snake sheds their skin. So they can grow that leg back. But Hannah, poor little girl, she's getting quite old. Now,
and maybe you could just share a little bit on how some of the animals have come to be under your very loving care, and just, you know, the kind of cycle of rehabilitation, but also the realities that you know, some animals can't go back to the wild. Either they've been captured, you know, rescued too young, and they don't know how to socialize in the wild. But you know, maybe just touching a bit on
yes,
on how people like Hannah, you know, are with you today.
Sure thing. Well, I was just about to say Miss Hannah, she obviously, because her leg was missing, I scooped her up, and I'll show you a little bit later on how we can pick up insects without getting hurt and without hurting them. But Hannah, she came into my care. Obviously, she's missing that leg, and I love spiders. As a little girl, my mum taught me not to be scared of spiders. I was that kid that whenever there was a spider, I vividly remember right on top of the doorway in my year 5 classroom, and no one would go in the door because there was a big spider there, and I was the one that always removed the spiders. So I've always loved beautiful spiders. And Hannah, she actually lives in my house. She lives behind a beautiful painting and runs around of a nighttime catching lots of insects in my house. So she likes to catch cockroaches, but in the webs that she makes, she catches other little spiders, mosquitoes. I mean, I don't like mosquitoes, but they are an important animal. It's a food source for Hannah and lots of other animals too, and flies as well. So it's very good to have Hannah in my house. So if you do have spiders and spider webs, we don't need to get rid of them, and we don't need to get our bug spray and spray spiders or squish them. They're actually really, really important animals to have in our house. Oh, Hannah, you are getting old, aren't you? There we are. You can see. I'll see if I can get a bit closer to the camera. Oh, poor Hannah. She is getting on in her age, and I'm be very sad the day that Hannah is no longer with us. Oh, forget Hannah. You hop off my hand here. There we go. So it's just in a little travel container. Oh, there you are, Miss Hannah. She is beautiful. All right, let's get this whiteboard out and pop our spider. There's Hannah. Hannah the huntsman on our food web. And we're going to draw a line. So Cookie could eat Hannah. And Hannah could also eat our grub. So there we are. We can see lots of lines forming, starting our web. It's looking a bit like a spider's web. But this bug spray, it's not bad. It's not good just for bugs. It's also quite dangerous for other animals, just like Freddy here. Up you come, Freddy. Oh, you're being a bit sticky. Here he is, Freddy the Frog. All right, let's see if he'll stay up here. I bet you he's going to jump off though. Freddy is a beautiful, beautiful frog. He's my absolute favorite color. Have a look. Oh, Freddy, we'll show everyone. Check that out. How vibrant is that green? He is the most beautiful green color ever. Now, if you spray your garden to get rid of bugs, you can also hurt these animals too, these frogs. So this frog, he's not a pond frog. He's a tree frog, a green tree frog. And if we're out in our garden spraying to get rid of bugs, this frog might also get sick because their skin is just like a sponge. So if we have chemicals on our hands, like sunscreen or hand sanitizer, and we touch frogs, it'll go through their skin into their stomach, exactly the same as if we were to spray bugs in our garden. Those chemicals will go through our frog's skin into their stomach and they can also get sick. But Freddy, he also eats grub. So we'll see if he'll eat a grub today. I might bring him a bit closer to our camera. Freddy, is everyone watching? We'll see if he will eat our grub. Oh, none of my animals want to eat today. Come on, Freddy. Oh, well, almost. There you go. How cool is that? He used his hand to push his food into his mouth. And can you do a big frog smile? Frogs don't have teeth though, so you need to do a toothless smile. I think these frogs are so fantastic with their sticky, sticky fingers so they can climb up the trees. And speaking of the trees, he's a tree frog, so he can camouflage or blend in really well to the trees. Obviously not to the bark here, but to the beautiful green leaves. So it's important that we make sure that we don't spray any chemicals in our garden because we might not see our animals camouflaging in the trees and it could definitely harm them. Freddy, did you enjoy that mealworm? Saying yes, definitely. He loves his mealworms. All right, Freddy, shall we grab you in here? Well, speaking about our mosquitoes, Freddy can also eat mosquitoes, lots and lots of insects. So any bugs we spray, they can get harmed. They can pass on the chemicals. So if we spray our garden, we spray all the bugs, our frog might come along and eat those bugs, and then they can also get sick because they've eaten a bug that has spray chemicals on them. So it's a very kind of dangerous thing to do, to be spraying bugs in our garden or spraying any chemicals in our garden, because we need to really, really think about our environment, all the other things that call our gardens home, including this one over here is a big one. Hang on, I'm going to have to reach right over and grab this nocturnal animal. So he's most active at night time, but during the day, you'll see them sitting really still in the trees, camouflaging. Oh, yes, I know. You ready? Up you come. Whoops. Up you come. Oh, he's being a bit cheeky today. Here we are. Ready? Now, this is Donnie, and he's not an owl. He gets a bit grumpy when people call him an owl. He is a Tawny Frogmouth. Now, the difference between a tawny and an owl is that an owl has a very flat face. And Donnie, can you face everybody? Ready? Can you see he has, there it is, a pointy beak, and he uses that beak to catch his food. But owls use their claws or their talons. They have really strong feet, big talons, so they can swoop down and pick up their prey. Donnie doesn't have those strong feet. He relies on that beak of his. Now, Donnie, would you like some food as well? We have some grubs for you. Are you ready? Here we are. Would you like a grub? Come on, eat your food. Up you get. Oh, no one wants to eat for me today. Oh, you're ruining it. Come on, Don. No, well, he does eat grubs. He eats moths. You know, the like the butterflies of the nighttime, they like to eat lots of insects. Again, if we spray our bugs with bug spray and then my tawny comes along and eats them, they can also get sick. So like I said, tawny frogmouths are nocturnal animals. They're most active at nighttime. But during the day, they'll sit really still in the trees, just like Donnie, camouflaging. You can see the beautiful patterns on his feathers blend in really well to that branch. Donnie, we're going to turn you around just a little bit so everyone can see you. There we go. You can say hi to everyone. Look at that. Oh, look at that face. He's a bit of a grumpy bird. Donnie, you going to do a big smile? Try again for a mealworm. No? You see, you might be able to see there's feathers on his face there. Oh, there we go. Now he has a peck. Can you see those feathers on his nose? They help him detect movement. So if there is an insect in the air, he will feel them, the movement of the air, and he can open up his mouth really wide and inside of his mouth is bright yellow. So he will gobble up that food. Alex says, I think Donnie is a bit stubborn. He is. He's his own bird. He likes to do what he likes to do, don't you, Donnie? But he's a beautiful boy. Have you ever seen a tawny frogmouth in the bush before? They're so hard to spot. I heard them before I could see them, and they're so tricky to see in those trees, aren't you, Donnie? You're so good at camouflaging. So sitting in the trees really still. But tree branches don't have eyes, do they? No, they don't have eyes. So he squints his eyes. So tawny frogmouth will sit in the tree really still, squinting. So you can just see at the bottom a little bit. Very, very still. The pressure of being on screen is making him tired already. I know, pressure. He usually loves his Zooms. Donnie loves his Zoom calls usually. He usually would like to eat, but it's animals for you. It's like asking a child to do something. They won't do it, will they, when you ask them to? Donnie, you're just like a little kid. Hey? Oh, look at that face. Oh, I'm being told off, just giving that look. Okay, well, we're going to pop you away and we'll look at that food web. What do you think? Up you come. Good boy. There we are. In you get. Well done. Good boy, Donnie. Let's get our food web out again. We have two more animals to add. We have our green tree frog, but we also have our tawny frogmouth. Now, we're going to be drawing lots of lines. Our frog can eat the mealworm, but also could eat the spider. Cookie here could eat Freddy the Frog as well. Our tawny frogmouth, he can eat grubs. He can eat spiders. I think that's just about it. Oh, he could eat frogs. Obviously not one as big as Freddy. He's a huge green tree frog. But you can see, look at all those lines everywhere. It's starting to look a little bit like a spider's web. All of these animals are linking together, making our food web or the web of life. Biodiversity, that big word again. Pop him down there. This next one's really cool. It's a small animal, but this animal, I'll pop this one away. Very good at camouflaging. Whoop. There we go. I'll pop him in here. Now, I'm going to change our screens over. So please bear with me. I'm going to change it over so we can see. Here's my other camera. So we can see up nice and close. So bear with me, everybody. Oh, no, I'm not able to screen share. That's all right. We have a backup. Now, please bear with me. I'm just going to, I've got a fancy camera that moves. I hope you don't get too seasick. I'm going to zoom in on my scorpion. Here it is. We'll wait for the camera to focus. This is my beautiful Flinders Ranges scorpion. Have a look at this. Now, there are no dangerous scorpions in Australia, but they do have their long tail that they can use to protect themselves. I'll grab my tweezers so I can point. There's his long tail with a stinger on the end, and they use that to catch their food. They can put some venom in it, but not enough to kill us. It might hurt for a little bit if they do bite you. And then at the front here, they have their big pincers, like my tweezers. They can use them to catch their prey. I said he's a Flinders Ranges scorpion. Whoop, on the move. There he goes. And you can see how the scorpion can camouflage really well into their environment. So they're found in the rocks. They like to hide in between the rocks. There he is. But these scorpions, oh, trying to escape. No, you don't. These scorpions are pretty amazing. They have, well, I like to call it a superpower. Are you ready for me to show you the superpower? If I shine a torch on them, not a normal torch, excuse me, this is Steve. Yeah, Alex, we do have scorpions. How's that? So this one's a Flinders Ranges scorpion, so obviously found in the Flinders Ranges area. But we have lots of scorpions out here, at Animals of Oz in Pakenham. I have found some little black scorpions. They're probably about 1.5 centimeters. They're little, I think they're called rock scorpions, and they do pack a punch. I haven't been bitten, but I have posted on some Facebook groups to find out about the scorpion, which species it was, and they said they've been bitten and just hurts for a little bit, like a day or so, but obviously not going to die. Are they related to the South American ones? I do not believe so. So these ones are endemic to Australia. They're only found in Australia, the little Flinders Ranges scorpions. And this is just about as big as it's going to get. So it is a fully grown scorpion, and hopefully he's going to stay nice and still. My torch here is a purple torch. Can you see that purple color when I shine it down onto the dirt? If I hold it on my scorpion's going to change color. So you can see it's a bit of a browny, yellowy color at the moment. Have a look at that. How awesome is this? So when you shine a UV torch or a purple torch on a scorpion, they will fluoresce. How cool. Oh, he's trying to escape again. Whoop, nope, whoop. On my table, excuse me. So they will fluoresce this beautiful bluey green color. They don't really know why scorpions will fluoresce this color. They think maybe because when you're driving in the car and you see animals, you might see the eye shine. Have you ever seen that before? The eye shine of animals. Oh, he's on the move again. And if the scorpion has this similar color to an eye shine, looks like a pretty big animal, maybe the eye the size of a cow's eye. So the animal must be quite huge. Hopefully other animals won't want to eat it if they shine this, if they have like an eye shine color. Now I'm going to zoom back out. So scorpion's trying to escape. Bear with me. I hope you don't get too seasick as I move out. Hello, me again. I'm going to show you how we can pick up animals or insects or bugs without hurting them, without us getting hurt as well. So if we do have spiders, scorpions, any insects that we're not too sure about, because I understand lots of people don't like bugs, I love them, but some people don't. Not everyone's the same, and that's totally fine. What we can do to pick up our bugs without hurting them, super easy. All we need is a cup and a card or a piece of paper, something we can scoop it up with. So what we're going to do, I'll turn my scorpion around this way. We get our cup, turn it upside down, and then very, very carefully put it over our scorpion. I'm just going to move him into the middle a little bit because he's right over at the edge and I don't want to squish him. Watch out. Okay, every bit's in there. His tail's curled up, his legs are in there, his arms. So my scorpion's carefully under the cup. I haven't squished the scorpion. This is the tricky part. Getting your card and scooping it underneath. Has anyone done this before? Let me know in the chat. Have you tried this method of catching bugs and safely moving them away? There we go. Ta-da! There we are. I've caught my scorpion. You can see he's moving around. I haven't squished any of his feet. Well done. Melanie said, yes, you've done it for huntsmen. Fantastic. Now, what should I do with my scorpion now that I've caught it? Definitely don't throw it in the toilet, do I? If we catch our bugs, we can take it outside, put it in the garden, maybe walk it down the street if you're a little bit nervous about these animals, and take them a little bit further away from your house. So hopefully they don't end back up in there. Alex says, I do it for my hubby. He's petrified of bugs. Well, I'm glad that someone's the bug catcher in the family. That's me. I'm the one that catches all of the bugs. So what I'm going to do is very carefully turn him up this way. There we are. My scorpion's in there, nice and safe. I'm going to keep him in the cup because I can see him escaping from my tray here. Speak about cheeky animals today. I think every single one that I have shown you so far has been very, very cheeky and not necessarily doing what I would like them to do. All right, let's get our food web out again. Here we are. Our scorpion. Let's draw some lines. So our scorpion, he's an insect eater. He's an insect that eats other insects. We can draw a line from him to our mealworm. Oh, the marker wasn't working very well. He could eat spiders. So we'll draw a line there. Our kookaburra. Our kookaburra could eat a scorpion. All right, now it's going to get messy. Let's draw a line over here. Our frog, he could, if he found a scorpion, he could eat one. Oh, and our tawny, and do you know, I think our beardy, if he found one in the desert, he would probably give that a go too. Look at all those lines everywhere. Alex says, who is the best person to contact if we see an animal in our backyard that doesn't belong there? Does it depend on what sort of animal it is in terms of who we contact or who we or should we not intervene? What animals are you thinking of, Alex? What animals are you thinking of specifically that shouldn't be in your garden? Pop my board down here. For our next invert, we had a tawny frogmouth in a shed a little while ago. Awesome. Now, if your tawny's in your shed, obviously this doesn't really belong in the shed, but if you left the door up, if you're happy to do that, the tawny will find their way out there. So, and that's awesome if you have a tawny frogmouth in your garden. That is so cool. We found one at my mum's house. He was sitting on the driveway, but he was all right. He flew off again. You left the door open. Fabulous. Yeah. So if you do have any animals coming in, birds, just, leave the door open. They'll find their way out, especially with a shed. It's such a large door. They should be easily able to find their way out. But he might have just been looking for a little place to stop over and have a bit of a rest. However, if it was there for some time and didn't fly off, it might have been injured. So when it happens like that, the best place is to call an animal rescue company. You can jump on Google and have a little look what number is in your area. There are so many different rescue groups. So I would recommend just to have a Google. I've got quite a few saved in my house. Here we go. Asian house geckos and cane toads. Any advice in handling invasive species respectfully? Well, very lucky that we don't have cane toads here in Victoria yet. I'm hoping they don't make their way down. Cane toads. I don't think there's any really. The only way, well, the most common way, I'm not too sure if they advertise what they do, what to do with them. However, lots of people can collect them and put them in the freezer. So it is a humane-ish way to euthanize them. It slows their heart rate right down until it doesn't beat anymore. Otherwise, I'm not too sure. An Asian house geckos, I actually don't know, Bunny. I'm going to have to do some homework on that. That's a great question, but cane toads are a massive pest. When I was up in Cairns with a friend visiting up there, and we saw quite a few. We went on a hunt. Do you know any more about it, Barney?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a bit of a tricky one because, all of the beautiful animals you've been sharing, a lot of them are at risk from, like, especially feral pigs up here. They're a really big, problem. And as Melanie said there, ride over them with your bike seems to be the attitude for most people, and kind of going out pig hunting and, just squishing the geckos. But it's a tricky one with biodiversity because they, we're not from here originally. I was born in England, and obviously the TOs were here for thousands of years, but it's just a bit of a tricky one on how we manage these invasive species kind of respectfully, because obviously some of them can hurt some of the beautiful creatures that you shared so far today.
Yes, yeah, it is a tricky one. It's that line, they are an invasive species, so they really don't belong here, and they're, especially cane toads, are impacting on so many of our native animals. The friend of mine who I was visiting, actually, she has a beautiful Spencer's goanna, and it's in an outdoor pit because obviously it's much warmer up there. The animal can live outside, and she went, it's meant to be entrance and escape proof, so nothing can get in. The lizard, can't get out. And unfortunately, one morning she went to go and check on her goanna, and it had died, and next to it was a cane toad. Somehow this cane toad climbed, a 1.5 meter, 2 meter fence, or somehow it got into this fence, over the fence. The goanna bit it, and because of the poison, the goanna died, but also the cane toad died because the goanna bit it. So it's that very fine line, isn't it? It's not from here, and it's just making so many animals, disappear, really. But the fine line of euthanizing in a respectful way, like you said, a respectful way. It is a very fine line, isn't it? You don't. Yeah, I'm actually not too sure about that one. It's a very tricky question to answer.
Yeah, and just biosecurity in general is tricky. Some of the weeds and the kind of the army worm right now is a big one that's come in from Indonesia and Africa, and it's got so tough from herbicides that it's now being resistant to all of this stuff that people normally can spray on their crops, and it gets rid of it. But it's like a super, army worm that's somehow managed to get its way here. And yeah, it's just, how can we bring love into dealing with those sort of creatures? Because they are also, a part of biology, and they're indeed part of our planet, but they're just need to be managed, just with that respect, which can be tricky. But I think the cane toad comment with the freezer, that's definitely what I've seen the most respectful way to deal with the toads, especially.
Yeah, I like that. Alex says, just don't be Mr. McGregor from Peter Rabbit. We'll move on. I've got a few more animals to show you, but I do love the conversation, so please, if you've got any questions or conversations, please type away or pop up, Barney, because I do love interacting and having that conversation. It makes me think, and it like with your question, I'm definitely going to go away and do some homework on that to see what can be done, if there can be more done to respectfully, I like that word, respectfully remove them or do something about them. I guess maybe the best way, but this is the tricky part, is catching the eggs, collecting all of the eggs before they even turn into frogs. or cane toads, sorry. But again, not that easy. I did see on a Facebook page, some people were collecting, it's in the back of my brain now, but it was really, really quite interesting how they set it up for the cane toads to lay their eggs and in this special, I guess, collection site, and then they remove the eggs so then they don't turn into cane toads, which I thought was really interesting. So maybe that's a way that you can remove the eggs before they turn into toads and move on. So maybe there is an answer.
Yeah, definitely, and it makes me think they've genetically modified mosquitoes, basically not to when they breed, they don't have the malaria capabilities anymore. So they haven't wiped out all of the mozzies, because obviously, like people like the frog, the green tree frog that you showed us, that's their morning snack.
Yeah.
So they're still a part of the ecosystem, but they've kind of figured out how to get rid of the malaria within that breed. They've kind of intercepted, just like the tadpoles, the kind of breeding moment to resolve the problem, which is pretty.
Yeah, awesome. Oh, there we go. I can't see. I knew that there was something in the back of my brain full of animal things, but it's just too full of animal things. I think so much info. There's so many animals and so much information about them, and it's just overwhelming sometimes when you do. I mistakenly sit in bed and said, I'll Google the question that Barney asked me. 2 hours later, I haven't gone to sleep, and I'm in a wormhole through the internet researching, and then the links to more things. So note to self, don't do it at nighttime when I'm about to go to bed. But you can spend hours just in these wormholes in the internet finding more information about them.
Well, thanks for sharing all your knowledge with us. I know what, keeping your voice going, it takes a lot of energy. So I appreciate you caring about all of these animals and sharing your story, and excited to see who you have next to show us.
So our next animal I'm going to show you is our giant tiger centipede. And she's showing us very nicely how, there we go, you can see her body there standing up. This is Cindy the centipede. You can see at the top, she has her antennas, and I'm keeping her in this container because she does have a very, very powerful bite. Yes, and it will really, really hurt. So we're going to keep her in here, and we can just have a look through the container. But you can see, if I turn her around this way, can you see all of those legs? You're meant to be laying down so we can have a look at you. You can see all of those legs, and you can see why they call her a tiger centipede, all of those stripes along her body. And it just amazes me when they walk, how they can get all of their legs coordinating and walking together. Sometimes I trip over and I've only got 2. Can you imagine she has 42 legs? Imagine coordinating all of those and moving them together. And you might be able to see up on that top part, you can see those pincers that she uses for catching her food and for that very strong bite. There she is. Now, these beautiful bugs, again, lots of people don't like them. They're not from Victoria, up north where it's much warmer, and up north gets all of the really big and, I guess, sometimes scary bugs. Some people hate them. I actually heard a friend was up there living up north in Queensland and came across a centipede, not a giant tiger centipede, but came across a centipede, and they were so scared of it. They got their bug spray and used an entire can of bug spray on the centipede. It wasn't really necessary, is it, to use a whole can of bug spray? I know people might be a little bit nervous about these animals, but we do not need to use a whole can of bug spray. We don't need to use bug spray at all. We can use our cup and a card, or we can just leave the bug alone. How can we remember the difference between a centipede and a millipede? Great question, Barney. So when we had a look at her, you can see the black stripes on the body. So there's segments in between each of those black stripes. So either side of those segments is one leg. So she has one leg either side of those segments. So she's a centipede, centi meaning one. One leg either side of each of those segments. Millipedes, multiple. they have 2 legs on each side of their segment. So millipedes have lots of legs, so 2 legs each segment. So can you imagine what as I said, she's got 42, so double that, 48, 4 and 4 is 84 legs. Imagine that. So millipedes have a lot more legs. Centipedes just have 1 leg on each of those segments. So you can see the difference there. Thank you, Barney, for that. That was an awesome question. Now, I usually give her a bit of food, but because she's up there, we might give it a go. We'll see if she's hungry. Again, we have our grub. I'm going to use tweezers with this one because, like I said, she does have a very powerful bite. Cindy, would you like a grub? If I tap you down here, come down, please. And would you like a grub? Here we go. If I pop it there, what do you think? She says, I'm having a little look at it. Oh, there we go. That's what I wanted her to do, to move around so you can see those legs. Ah, look at that. Oh, I'm so nervous. I'm going to drop it. There it is. Check out those legs moving. Lots and lots of legs. So we don't need to be scared of these animals. We don't need to be throwing things at them. We don't need to be squishing them, stomping on them with our boots. And we definitely do not need to be using bug spray. Oh, I'm going to pop her down and see if she finds this grub. And if she does, I'll pick her up again and show you her eating it, because it's actually really, really cool watching her eat the grub. But again, I think it's just the theme tonight. No one wants to eat any food. No one wants to show us what they do.
And quick question, those guys are definitely my thing I'm most scared of in the jungle up here. Every time I find the ones with the big blue fangs, I'm terrified. Yes. Do you have any advice for that moment of being scared, or seeing the huntsman or the millipedes just jumped out of the pot, or whatever? Do you have any advice for anyone listening on how to kind of overcome that fear in a sense, and not react with the whole can of double bug spray and know? And any advice would be awesome, because I definitely have those moments where I get scared of millipedes, especially.
I mean, sometimes you get that fright. It's always going to get a little bit of a fright, and that's okay. It's just a reaction that we all have. Even I get it sometimes, and it's the smallest little thing makes me jump. However, we have to remember that we don't need to get our bug spray. All of these animals are really important for our environment. I really don't like mosquitoes. I absolutely get devoured by mosquitoes. And sometimes I wish they weren't here, but at the end of the day, we need to remember that everything here has a purpose, doesn't it? All of these animals, they interact. We've got our food web. You saw that everything is interacting together, and that they are an important part of our ecosystem. They're part of biodiversity. Frogs eat the mosquitoes. Our Tawny Frogmouth could. We have little sugar gliders. They eat mosquitoes too. So there's a bigger picture that, yes, we might be a little bit scared of a smaller animal. There is reason to be. They might hurt us. But at the end of the day, if we can walk away from them and we don't get hurt by them, they play a big picture. They're really important for our environment, and they might remove bugs that you don't like. So, for example, I love frogs and I love tawnies and I love sugar gliders because they eat mosquitoes. I have a lot more respect for them because they get rid of the animal that I don't like. But we really do need those animals as part of the ecosystem, as part of biodiversity. We'll chuck on our centipede. I just read somewhere people use virtual reality to get used to being close up to bugs. That's a really great idea. Yeah. So it's not something that's in your face, seeing it on a computer and being okay and working up to it. We do have snakes, and sometimes when we take them along to presentations, I understand why people, especially in Australia, are so scared of snakes, especially venomous snakes. But I think that once they see how I'm interacting with a snake, for example, at Forever Fest on Saturday, we had a gentleman who was very nervous about the snakes, and another lady actually, and they both said, I'm really scared of snakes, but I'm going to give it a go. I think they saw how the snake was, my baby. So I had the snake climbing all over me, I'm quite relaxed, and I'm telling them how important they are and how we really need all of these animals in our environment. and I think they became a little bit more relaxed, and they actually had a touch, and the gentleman had a hold, which is amazing, really fantastic that people can overcome their fears. I think by understanding these animals and learning about them, and especially, I guess, touching them is another one. Bugs, some people don't like touching them, but for snakes, seeing how, I guess, myself, how I interacted with the snake that I had with me, and realizing it's not a scary one, it's not going to come up and bite, so they gave it a go. How can we teach our kids to be kinder to bugs? Are there any resources out there that you could suggest for us non-experts? I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I think, first of all, it's as parents showing your kids not to be scared. They learn from us. So if there's a spider and you scream and you run for the bug spray, the child's going to copy that reaction. They learn to be scared of the spider. Same thing, if they touch a hot plate, you tell them not to touch it because it's hot. If they didn't know that it was hot, they'd keep touching. If they didn't know, you didn't tell them to stop, they would keep touching it. Maybe not. But I think it starts with us teaching them not to be scared. Like I said, my mum, I think I'm very much like my mum. She's taught me not to be scared of insects or any of these animals, and that we need to care for all of these animals. It starts with us at home, even if it just means, I know I do lots of kindergartens and the teachers don't like certain animals that I've brought along, or maybe they're a bit nervous. If it just starts with you just putting on a brave face and trying to show them, you lead the way, you set the example, you show them that you're brave, or try to be brave, just put on that face, just and use the cup and the card. Really easy way to remove them. Or you can start practicing. I've just bought some plastic bugs from, I know, Kmart, and you can use a cup and a card and teach them to be respectful that way. So I think it definitely starts at home. You'll try your best to be brave. It definitely starts at home. Teach, we are the leaders. We teach our children everything, emotion. We teach them how to be brave or how to be scared. But it's okay to be scared. You can say to them, I'm a little bit nervous about this animal. It's not going to hurt us, but I'm a little bit scared. But you can be really brave. So you can turn it that way. I hope that helps. I'm not too sure about resources, but again, I will do some homework on that one too. And I'll see what I can do. Oh, thank you. I'm glad that helped. We'll quickly draw some lines onto this one before my final animal. We have our centipede. Well, he would definitely eat the grub, and lots of my animals would eat this centipede. Kookaburra, oh, here we go, all the way across the board, would definitely eat it. Tawny could eat it. Frog, bearded dragon. I think these two would go against each other. They would have a bit of a fight. And this one, so there we go. Look at all those lines. It's so confusing, those lines going everywhere, but that is our food web. All of these animals are really, really important. So you can see how the centipede here, how pretty much everything, either they eat it or it eats them. So that's our food web, our biodiversity, why all of these animals are really important for each other. Now, the presentation is predator, prey, and pollination. So we've met lots of predators, we've met lots of prey. Now for the final one, my pollinator, my favorite Australian animal, as I was saying at the beginning. You ready to come out? Come on, up you come. Good boy. Oh, here he is. This is Errol, and he is my beautiful grey-headed flying fox, or fruit bat. And I have some sultanas here in this container. Yes, I know, you're being a good boy. You don't want any? I love these animals. I was saying a bit earlier that bats help with pollination, just like bees and butterflies and so many other animals. But bats are much, much bigger than bees and butterflies and lots of other insects. So while they're flying around at nighttime, they pollinate. Look how large he is and how much fur he has on his body. He can carry lots of pollen and spread that pollen around, cross-pollinate. And they can also plant trees. As Barney said, they spread seeds around, and as the seeds land on the ground, they will grow into beautiful big trees, which is really important for us because trees make oxygen, We breathe oxygen. So for us, they're very important, but you know, they can plant fruit trees. They can plant, or any trees, habitat for animals, like our beautiful hollow log here. An animal can live in the hollow of the tree. So bats are really important for lots and lots of animals and for us as well. So bats, they have 5 fingers. Well, there's his thumb that he's saying, give me more sultanas with. And the rest of the 4 fingers are connected by a thin membrane. Are you ready to show them your wing? Ready, set, there we go. That was very quick. But did you see the 4 fingers connected by that very thin membrane? Oh, I can hear him sniffing in my ear. You're so cheeky, Errol. So with that wing, when he stretches those wings out, he has a wingspan of just over a meter. Here you go. There we are. And I think bats are really the one animal you can really change people's perceptions with. They do smell and they are very noisy. However, they are so, so important. They pollinate, they plant trees. They are just beautiful animals. They fly much further than bees, can carry lots of pollen. Check out that fairy belly of his. So can you tell that I love bats? And they're really, really cute. I'll show you what we did. So we got Errol when he was a baby. He was hanging onto his mum's tummy while she was flying around looking for some food. And unfortunately, she was found a tree covered in netting, an apple tree. And the person, obviously people put netting on their trees to protect their fruit so they don't get eaten and we can eat them. But it's not good for other animals, birds, possums, bats. And the mum bat got all tangled up in it and she had lots of injuries and we had to euthanize her, unfortunately. So Errol, will you let me, he knows it's dinner time. Lily says, can't be any more stinky than my 4-year-old, I'm sure. Oh, springtime, they can get pretty stinky. Look at that little face. Isn't he just the cutest? So he doesn't want to be upside down. Okay. How can we avoid misunderstanding towards them because of the link to the COVID outbreak? That's another one too. Well, I think, again, it's just thinking about their importance. I don't know if it was actually, was it really linked back to bats, or I don't know. To be honest, when it comes to COVID stuff, sometimes I shut my ears. When it was in full swing, I was a little bit over it and shut my ears off to it because I couldn't really deal with it. It was just too much. But every animal has diseases. One kid said to me, "Oh, but doesn't it have germs?" Everything has germs. Everything does. However, here we go. I can't even say that first word.
Pangolins, they're the scaly creature.
Oh, thank you. Yes. So everything has diseases, and I understand. So in Australia, some bats, 1% of bats can carry Lyssa virus. But everything we know, we've got modern medicine. Everything happens so quickly. We've got a vaccination for COVID already. You know, how amazing is that? So first of all, if you do find any wildlife, be it birds or bats, you definitely do not touch them. You do need an expert, someone who has been vaccinated and knows how to correctly handle bats. They're not going to be as friendly as this in the wild if they, you know, get all tangled up in a tree, in the netting, in the fence wire. I have seen some horrific videos of, you know, the fence wires with the spiral and bats getting caught in there, or other animals. They're not going to be friendly like my baby here. So it is always best to call an expert and not try and get them out yourselves, but you can get vaccinations. So I'm fully vaccinated for handling bats. If I was to ever get bitten and anything happen, I'm fully covered, but it is, best not to touch them. And I guess like I said, back to your question, how can we avoid the misunderstanding towards them? The COVID part, I'm not too sure. I've still got a little bit to think about that one. But I guess when people say they're stinky and they're noisy and they don't belong here, we really need to think about how important they are, how they fly so much further than bees, how they pollinate, they plant trees for us, for other animals, for habitat. They're just, I think, they're positives far outweigh the negatives, but also because they're just really cute. Look at that little face. He looks like a little meerkat or a little Jack Russell. You don't want to be cuddled today. He says no. Oh, if you were down at Forever Fest on Saturday, you would have seen Errol, and he was fast asleep. He actually was all curled up in my arms. He had his eyes closed and he was asleep. He was having a good old cuddle. He doesn't want to cuddle today. No one wants to do what I want them to do, but that's all right. They can do what they like. But guys, that's everything I have for you today. All of my beautiful animals. I've loved the conversation. If you have any questions, please ask away, or any conversations. I'm happy to join in. I love learning as well. I love listening to people's thoughts and how they can help our animals. There we go. Barney's popped some links in for everyone to have a little look at. Beautiful for some wildlife rescues. Fantastic. Beautiful. But yes, it is really important that we think about not just us, that we think about all of the other animals and the bigger picture. I think, especially with bats, the reason people don't want them in their area is because they smell and they're noisy. Well, I think we need to put our thoughts and feelings aside and think about the bigger picture. Heidi says that was really cool. Thanks for showing the animals and sharing your knowledge. Thanks so much for joining, Heidi. I'm glad you learned a lot. Oh, Errol's, he's definitely ready for dinner time. Can you see? You cheeky monster. He's having a sniff. He loves sniffing everything too. You can see him walking around and grabbing everything. Thanks, Steph. Thanks, Melanie. If you have any questions, please type away. I'd love to hear any questions that you have. And just on that note, when I was saying we need to think about, the bigger picture and not think about ourselves, the neighbour at my mum's house, we've got beautiful gums lining our court, and the council's slowly cutting them down, and our neighbour has put in a complaint and wants to remove the gums out the front because they've dropped their leaves.
Wow.
It makes his garden untidy. And, doing what I do, I'm just like, I'm glad he's never brought the conversation up with me. He said it to my mum before, and like I said, my mum and I are quite similar, so she's had a few words with him. There are actually bats that go to those trees when they flower. They've got a beautiful white flower, and there's bats that hang out in those trees getting the nectar from the flowers. So because it's inconvenient for him, he wants to chop down the trees. The leaves land on his garden, but he's not thinking about the bats that get their food from there. Get the beautiful birds. There's loads of lorikeets. The lorikeets make a big mess too, I've been told by him. So
how do you remain patient with people like that? And I have to deal with cattle jockeys up here who think it's acceptable to just bulldoze rainforests and burn them, when obviously you need to respect this stuff just as much as use it as a resource. But how do you remain patient, whether you're dealing with a climate denier or someone who doesn't respect wildlife, or someone who doesn't give a hoot about spraying, chemicals all over their garden and stuff? How can you remain patient but also impactful when you navigate with those people?
It is very tricky, but I worked in customer service for a very long time. So I think I put my customer service face on and I say, not shut them down. You say, I understand where you're coming from. So if you acknowledge them and say, I understand where you're coming from, because, they whether we think their point is valid or not, you can say, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. However, there's more than cleaning up your garden, cleaning up the leaves from your garden. I don't know. It is really hard. I have to definitely take a big deep breath inside. My face probably goes bright red because I'm fuming and there's smoke coming. If it was a cartoon, I'd have smoke coming out of my ears and the top of my head coming off. But definitely have to take a big deep breath and try and think of emotive ways. Try and get the feelings, hit them in the heart and say, what about these beautiful animals? And that's why what I do for a living, I can say things and they're just like, yeah, whatever. But if I show them the bats and I show them the passion that I have for these animals, then people are really like, oh, okay, yeah, I might think about it. And even if they just think about it for 2 seconds, I've done my job. Rather than them just being stone face and nope, this is it, foot down. Oh, sorry, Errol, foot down. I'm not thinking about anything else. If I can get them to stop and just think for a little bit, then I think I've done my job. I know it is really hard, but even if they think for 2 seconds, I feel that I can make a little bit of a change. If it just, yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's a hard one, you know, and things like Forever Fest. And I think it's a moment where often we're preaching to the choir in a sense, but you know, how do we disrupt and you know, I guarantee the person who watches the new kind of Seaspiracy sort of equivalent of a documentary have probably watched the last 5 or 10 similar documentaries, but how do we kind of prod and be respectful, but maybe get people to consider to do something different, or to watch maybe a documentary instead of more, you know, Kim Kardashian or whatever it is, you know. It's like, how do we, you know, respectfully just open doors, but without telling people that they're in the wrong door, you know? I think that that's a tricky one.
Yeah, definitely. That's why I really like what we do. So I think I can, with our job, we're mobile. Sometimes we're at shopping centres. So for those people who might be, you know, totally stone-faced and negative and against all of that, they'll see a snake and think, oh, I'll come and check that out. And I might hang around, see the snake, and then the next animal I get out is a tawny. And we talk about if we're spraying bugs in the garden, the tawny frogmouth can get sick, etc. And they might hang around and see the rest of the animals. So I think, yeah, because we pop up in, you know, very different areas, places you might not think, you know, and just doing your groceries and some animals here. And like I said, even if they stop and just think for 2 seconds, they've thought about it, and that might put a little seed in their brain, and then they might, like you said, go and not look at all the Kardashians and think of things in a different way. It is a very, very tricky little thing to do to try and change those people's ideas. But I think definitely using emotive language and what we do, people get to touch the animals, and it's one thing seeing on a computer screen, or it's on a picture of an animal, but actually touching them is very different. Lily said, obviously Dandenong is the wrong one, is a very multicultural municipality. How would you go about engaging with people who don't speak English as their main language? That's a really good one. I think we use quite simple language, things that, you know, and we do explain. So if I say nocturnal or camouflage, I'll explain what those things mean. But I've traveled quite a bit too, and charades is a great way to get a message across if someone doesn't quite understand. I've just moved into a new house and my neighbour speaks zero English, so charades was really great, just telling her we're trimming the hedge and we'll pick it up and take it back, you know, where if it falls over the fence we'll pick it up and clean it up. But, you know, don't be scared of it. And if I show you, oh, nice, then they might think that it's nice too. But that's another tricky one, another barrier you have to cross again, isn't it? Is there any good resources about the best plants and flowers to plant in your garden or in your balcony to attract more pollinators and birds? Yes, there are so many, Heidi. Personally, I love Gardening Australia. I'm just going to pop Errol away. I love Gardening Australia, and they have lots and lots of amazing tips for you. But your local council will have, there we go, I've got a link there. Our local council have, wildlife and growing biodiversity. Lots of nurseries. If you've got any local nurseries around where we are, we have our Green Circle Nursery, and they grow all local native indigenous plants, which is amazing. They have a brochure as well. I used to live in the city of Knox, and they have, I can't think of what the program's called, Wildlife to Your Backyard, and they've got a whole thing too. So you can even check out other councils as well, but definitely have a look at the link that Melanie posted, and it has plants that you can use to encourage animals to come and visit your garden. And I love doing that during COVID. Oh yes, thank you, Lily, Gardens for Wildlife. I was pulling out all of the horrible weeds that we have, and I've been wanting to do for ages, and I've planted all beautiful grevilleas. So lots of my animals will eat the grevilleas as well. The bats and the possums love grevillea. So we've got a beautiful native garden coming along, and one of my staff actually saw I can't think, it was a blue striped bumblebee, a bee with blue stripes on it, and apparently there's not many of them around, which was amazing. So very happy that the garden is being used by our beautiful wildlife. Great questions, everyone.
And I definitely encourage us to go to the local outlets for that, because, you know, nothing wrong with Bunnings, but, you know, often they sell species and plants that aren't from their area. So if the more local you go, and if you go to your local council or people who are really localized, you can normally find a bit more endemic and relevant native species for where you live.
Yep, you can just type in native nursery Dandenong and something should pop up. That's what I was doing when I was looking for my nurseries. But yeah, jump on I find that the council pages have loads and loads of information. So if you do jump onto your local council, the Dandenong Council website, usually there's so much information on there of different places that you can go to help with those plants and everything.
So what if you could be an animal for a day, who would you be?
Bit controversial, but a cat. I could be my mum's cat, because my mum worships her cat. They're both indoors. They do not go outside, but I would be my mum's cat because I love back rubs. So I get back rubs all day. I would just meow and I get fed. I think
The sun's soaking with your paws up.
Yeah, my mum sends me videos of her cat, Maisie, and Maisie sits and kneads my mum's tummy. Yeah, so I would come back as my mum's cat because I do love back rubs. But if I could be an Australian animal, I think I'd be a bat, because they're just amazing. Seeing the world through a bat's eyes, imagine that. And the adrenaline, I mean, they do it every day. They hang upside down by their feet, and then to fly, they drop and take off. Imagine we call it whoop. My dad used to call them whoop-de-doos, when your tummy goes whoop like this. Imagine the whoop-de-doos as you're dropping from the tree to take off and flying around, going all the amazing sights you would see, the beautiful trees you would land in. A little obsessed with gum trees. A bat is my Australian animal, a native Australian animal answer.
Like base jumping to get out of bed.
Yes, yeah. And they're just amazing. They give birth hanging upside down. They're just so cool. They're really amazing. I just find them so interesting.
Yeah, we've got the spectacle flying fox up here, which is the world's largest fruit bat, and they're definitely struggling, but it's so majestic seeing a mum carrying two pups. Like, you've got to be a proper alpha soccer mum to be like freaking lugging around two pups on your chest.
But also the baby's hanging on.
Yeah,
they're facing downwards. You know, if they let go, boom, down they go. They've got to hold on with their mouth and their little feet and hold on for dear life, hoping that they don't fall off. But I just think bats are so amazing. You know, their nipples are in their armpits. They give birth to live young hanging upside down. They have their little creche in the trees, and they can find their baby in a massive tree full of other little bats. I just think, can you tell that I love them? I just think the more I learn about them, the more that is so fascinating, and how they can hang without getting a head rush, hanging upside down without getting a head rush.
You never know. They could be like koalas. You know, koalas are stoned most of the time because they're drunk off the leaves. The bats are kind of getting a G up from the lightheaded rush. And maybe you could share with us, you know, I know that especially right now, and thanks again for being live with us, because I know that we've got all of the Melbourne kind of cluster thing going on with the COVID business, but, you know, I know that around the world, we've seen quite a lot of negative news recently, but what's something that's kind of keeping you really hopeful when it comes to biodiversity and encouraging people to interact with open spaces?
I think events just like this, the events on Saturday that we did, and having people coming through, even if they were just wandering through, and like I was saying, just having a little think about it. Oh, what's this event going on? And they see the parks people, they see all the plants, they see the boomerang bags, they have a little walk around and they're like, oh, this is interesting, and then they might jump onto the website and have a little browse through the council website and come across the plants and think, oh, that's a pretty flower, I'm going to buy that and put it in the garden. I think it's just like a chain reaction. And yeah, events like this, spreading awareness, and I think as well, what we do going to kindergartens and childcare, starting at a young age and trying to help them and I don't want to say teach them, educate, encourage all of these kids to make a little bit of a difference. If we can start with the little ones, hopefully they'll teach the grown-ups, and it can make a bit of a difference. So that goes into our, people not speaking English as a main language. If we go to a childcare and the kid says, oh, we saw a spider, but we didn't touch it, and if we do see one, this is how we pick it up, and they can speak to their parents about how to catch these animals. That actually happened. I had a girl I went to school with. I was at her daughter's childcare, and she said, oh, my daughter was going on and on and on about the spider and how we catch spiders. So they bought the plastic bugs and had a cup and a card, and they practiced catching bugs at home with plastic bugs. So yeah, I think it's just the big chain reaction that we have from just small things, small interactions that we have. It can hopefully make a really big difference, and that makes me hopeful.
And what would be your one kind of challenge that you would give everyone listening just to honour biodiversity a bit more?
Ooh. Well, we had a few people saying they were nervous about animals. So I think the challenge I would give you is to stop and have a bit of a think about how that animal can impact, how that animal has an impact, and what their role is in biodiversity and in the ecosystem, and if that can make you feel a little bit better. So think about, if you don't like mosquitoes, whack a mosquito. Oh, but that's food for other animals. So just starting to have a little bit of a think about how these animals are important for everything else in the ecosystem and in the big scheme of things.
Wonderful. I really like that. And I think that's just empathy across the board. We heard from some musicians today who were sharing their music, and one of the songs was about loving your friends, but, loving your weeds and loving your pests and loving your enemies. If you can bring that space of acknowledgement and empathy even into, dealing with either people or animals that may scare you or frustrate you, I think it's a really important part of all of us developing a bit more sustainably in sync with our landscapes and ecology and some of the absolutely magnificent creatures that you shared with us today. So thank you very much for sharing space and being patient with all of our questions. And I know this live stream, we're going to edit together some bits, and I'm sure your story will be shared with a lot more people ongoing. And as we were reminded today, Forever Fest is forever. All of this will be stored online. So appreciate you showing up today and sharing some of your knowledge, and I hope the dozers union strike doesn't get too much more intense.
Well, it is, like I said, it is dinner time, so I'm getting some dirty looks from Donnie, the Tawny Frogmouth, and you can, I don't know if you can hear Errol, he's making an absolute ruckus because he's hoping his brothers haven't eaten all the food. They probably haven't, but he'll be busting to get down there and have some dinner with the rest of the boys. But thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the amazing conversations. I've really, really enjoyed pulling things out and discussing and delving more into bits and pieces. I've really, really enjoyed today. Thank you, everyone, for your fantastic questions. I love listening to them, and I hope you've enjoyed these amazing animals, and I hope you can make a bit of a difference as well.
Awesome. Too easy. Well, thank you very much for finishing off the day. And I think that's the wrap up for our open space and biodiversity day. And what a wonderful way to end it with some shared biodiversity live in action.